BBC Sounds. Music, radio, podcasts.
I'm standing next to the River Coquet in the Upper Coquet Valley, one of the most remote parts of England. All the properties here are off-grid, not connected to mains electricity, and that's not through choice. But after a 50-year campaign, work is finally underway to lay a cable up the valley to connect 3 emergency phone masts and 16 properties. I'm going to take a trip up the valley to meet some of those whose lives are about to be transformed. My first stop is to meet Chris Singer at Limbricks. For now, his farm, like all the properties here, is powered by a very noisy generator.
So you've got to service the generators, engine oil every sort of month. 2 years to get a full rebuild. Go through 7,500 litres a year. Red diesel was up to sort of £1 a litre, so 7,500 just for fuel. Batteries are about 5,000. Maybe get 6 or 7 good years out of them. People come or stop over, nobody knows the system, so if it goes off, it's not so handy.
Now, Chris, along with his wife, Catherine, live alongside their neighbours, JC and Robert Charlton. It's just as well they all get on because they share the same generator, and that involves a little bit of give and take.
When we're like washing, putting the tumble dryer on, putting the dishwasher on, you can't just walk in and put everything on. You've got to think about it. Is JC next door doing stuff with her things?
We used to be a time where we'd both get up at exactly the same time and would both click the kettle on and everything would go into darkness. But now we kind of know, right, if you can hear them moving around, give them 5 minutes to get the kettle on and then we'll put ours on or vice versa.
My eldest is a teenager. It's not being able to leave her here by herself in case the generator goes off. There's no mobile phone signal. It's those kind of things.
The problem with those generators, of course, is that they break down. So I've popped next door to meet Shona Anderson. Shona, you've got a problem with your generator, haven't you?
We have, yes. Unfortunately, it wasn't working. And obviously, when the generator doesn't work, it can't charge the batteries for the inverter. So we rang Claude, who comes to the rescue. And he is going to hopefully sort the problem so we can get the electric back on.
I live in Dunkeld, north of Perth. I've just come down this morning. It's a 3-hour drive.
When you turn up here, people must be almost hugging you, are they?
You're usually glad to see me, yeah, it's quite rewarding.
We've been without electric 2 weeks. Claude is the only one that can do the generators. Without him, I don't know what we would do.
Obviously, I guess you'll miss this community when they get mains electricity, but,
Oh, yes.
But are you glad that they're being connected?
Oh, yes, yeah, it's about time. The odd property here and there, but when there's a whole valley, they should have been connected years ago. Right, I will fire this up.
No, you obviously still farm here, but you've actually taken the decision not to live in the house.
Yeah, well, it's not just because of being off-grid. There is a lot of other issues with the house, with it being an old property. But hopefully the plan is if we can get connected to the mains and get the work done on the house that needs doing, we could possibly get moved back in, and it would make life a lot easier for my husband if we could live back on the main part of the farm.
So I've driven 3 miles further up the valley to the home of Daniel and Sam Wood. Now, Daniel is a shepherd here, and he's just coming up the lane now on his quad bike. Hey, Daniel.
Hello.
So, Daniel, you've lived here in the valley pretty well all your life, haven't you? So tell me what you farm here.
We farm South Country Chevets, 1800. Back in the old days, the engine used to go on in the morning and then turned off at night. Like we said, there was no lights at all through the night. You're up first thing in the morning and working all day, and then it gets late before you get back in at night.
I think I can just hear the generator there. Should we go and have a look?
Yeah, at the minute it would be running there to try and charge the batteries. It's not very environmentally friendly, that's for sure.
Well, I'm going to pop inside and have a word with Sam. She has been the backbone of the campaign to get energy to this valley, hasn't she?
She has, yeah, she's done a lot.
I've been involved for about the last 10 years. A lot of it was trying to raise awareness of the issue, not just in the Upper Coquet Valley, but across Northumberland and across the country as well.
What does it mean to you that you have finally got there.
It's a relief. It's been a long time in coming. I'll hopefully be able to burn all of these letters at the end of it because it's taken up a lot of space in my cupboard.
It's not a cheap project. It's costing around £3 million. I mean, why do you think it's worth it?
Really, we should have been connected years ago. The power line runs out past Alwynton and it just stops dead. And for some reason at the time, we weren't connected. We don't have mains water, we don't have mains gas, we don't have mains electricity, we don't have wired broadband, we don't have fibre broadband. We really are living on the edge of society here when the last 0.1% to get anything. We don't have mobile reception. Getting electricity will make a big difference.
We've come into the kitchen and William is frying some sausages. No, it's chicken. So William Wood, you're 16. How has it impacted you growing up here?
Definitely been harder in terms of like education, school, connecting to the internet, especially during COVID when it was online learning.
And tell me how long it takes you to get to school.
About an hour and a half on 3 buses.
What difference will it make to have mains electricity here?
Just make everything a lot easier and not having to worry about overloading the generator.
Now, of course, we're in the Northumberland National Park here, and that means there was a lot to consider before planning permission for a cable could be given. Susanna Bouillier is Head of Planning at the Northumberland National Park Authority, and Jill Thompson is its ecologist, and they've come to meet me here, and I've just spotted them actually along the road because they're watching some birds above the Coquet. Susanna, how did it come about that there was an application to put a cable up this incredibly remote place?
Well, it mainly started in 2017 when we as a planning department worked with the Home Office to try and find locations for 3 telecoms masts, because at the moment there is no mobile signal up here. These masts were designed with diesel generators because there is no electricity. Over some time, the Home Office realised that actually putting mains electricity would allow them to provide a secure network connection, so they could always be reliable.
I mean, a lot of people would be saying, so obviously you would just say, right, OK, we don't mind you putting a cable up the valley, but it needs to be buried.
So the proposal that Northern Power Grid put forward to us was very much as much undergrounded as possible, but because of different technical limitations, they could only allow 4 kilometres to be undergrounded and the rest overgrounded. So that means 140 10-metre poles going through this amazing landscape. And so that's really difficult as a planner, as someone who cares for this area. But then, even if it may cause some harm, what are the benefits that this is going to bring to the community all along the Upper Coquet, as well as to the telecoms mast?
If it had been possible, you would have preferred the cables to have been buried along the entire length, really?
Yes, we would, but you just sometimes have to come up with a compromise, and I think this scheme that's come forward is the best scheme that can be done.
So how did you decide what bits should go underground and what bits went overground?
Well, I've got a plan here, if I can open it up. So this plan here will show where the poles are going and where the bits that are going to be undergrounded. They provide photo montage visualisations. You've got plans that show exactly where it's going to go. They've also got before and after. So it's useful, really useful for our members when they're looking at what the proposals are, when they made the decision, to see exactly what it would look like.
So I'm sneaking up on Jill because she's just got her binoculars out. What are you watching there, Jill?
Well, I'm just looking down towards the River Coquet and I'm trying to see if I can see a dipper. They fly really close to the water. It's actually a triple SI, or a site of special scientific interest, for the whole of its length. And it has spawning grounds for salmon and sea trout. There are otters. So it's just a really good whole ecosystem. Just if we walk up to the brow of the hill, we can see over to Lynn Briggs, which is a separate triple SI for the woodland and sort of plant species. And then further up the valley, as we're looking up round the rolling hills, we come up to near Barrowburn. There's some really special hay meadows there. They're actually have got a European designation, and you get all sorts of plants in there like wood cranesbill and eyebright, yellow rattle, lady's mantles, lots of purples and whites and yellows in the summertime. We're surrounded by really important habitats that's just fantastic.
The sound you're hearing now is trenches being dug for the sections going underground. The project's being led by Northern Power Grid, and two of the team have come to meet me here. Matthew Brown is a site team manager, and Ian Miller is head of connections design. He's the man overseeing it all.
It's around about 20 kilometres in total, about 15 of which is underground. Some of the places just don't lend themselves to putting cable in because the bedrock is close to surface. Other places it's difficult because it's a single track road and you'd have to close the roads in order to dig it up for underground cables.
What are the things that you have to look at before you even begin to put a cable down?
You've come up through National Park, you're in an area of MOD land. They wouldn't want us digging without their say-so, and we wouldn't want to dig without their say-so.
Quite.
You're talking about peatland, obviously there's ecological value to that. And if you're talking about the overhead lines, how can you do it sympathetically, keep off the skyline?
How do you physically put the line in?
If it's underground cable, it's relatively simple. You dig a trench, you make sure the trench is properly lined so that stones and bits and pieces that are in the bottom of the trench don't damage the cable. You lay the cable and then you reinstate typically the road or footpath or something like that over the top of it. Overhead line, you'll be looking to dig big post holes that you'll put your overhead line supports into the poles, and then you'll be looking to string the conductors across the top of that.
And Matthew, I guess before work even began, there was an awful lot to do.
Indeed, yeah. So we're doing ecological surveys, we're doing tree surveys, so if we do have to take down trees to bring overhead lines through, that we're replanting them. The idea of this project is to have the least impact on the environment as possible and to be as sympathetic to the area as we can be. A big part of that was the great crested newts. Birds of prey as well, there's a lot of birds of prey around this area. We have to make sure that we're not going to displace those. If we do come across sites where there's archaeological interest, we've got installed archaeologists to witness us carry out our excavations. There's nothing more satisfying in this job than throwing a switch and the lights coming on. I've grown up around this land, we feel like we have an attachment to the area and we feel like we have a duty and a stewardship to look after it.
But not everybody's getting connected. I've come right to the top end of the valley where Harry and Megan Byatt live, and they're not getting connected. How did it feel then to find out that all the farmers are going to be connected in the valley, but not you? It's so tantalisingly close. I mean, you can just about see the farm below you that is getting mains electricity and you're not.
Well, it's just one of them things, really. I don't begrudge anyone else in the valley getting electricity, and I fully support everybody doing it, but it is a bit of a running joke now that we're the only people not getting it.
Now, I know they're planning a big party for when they get connected. Will you be going along?
100%. We will be at the big party, hopefully. I don't think anyone's convinced it's going to happen for anyone just yet, so the party planning will wait until everyone that's connected has switched their lights on to see if it actually works.
But meanwhile, the wait goes on for you.
Yep, hopefully we'll get some renewables put in at some point.
Megan Byatt there, who has missed out on mains electricity because her home is just a bit too far up the valley to establish a reliable connection. The rest of the valley will soon have mains electricity, but they're the lucky ones. There are as many as 3,000 homes in the UK which will remain completely off-grid. And for those people, many of them farmers, the wait for unlimited light and power goes on. And this programme was produced and presented by me, Jo Lonsdale.